Hey there, welcome to And You Know This. I am your host, Katora Kendrick, and guess what I believe? I believe with every fiber of my being that your life knows exactly what it wants. As a matter of fact, it has always known what it wants. The tricky thing is, you got to get real good real soon at silencing all of the noise around us so you can hear your life speaking to you and give it what it has wanted since day one. I have the great pleasure of having someone here today who proves my belief fabulously. I am so glad that we can be joined by the one and only Soul Kelly. How you doing, Soul?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. So, Soul, tell us who you are and what brings you joy.
I'm originally from New Orleans, living in Houston. I am a Capricorn. I am a free spirit. I'm a Delta, and I'm a book lover.
Yeah,
This uh, I love sunsets and sunflowers.
like
th-
pina coladas and singing the rain. No.
yes, I actually do.
You like pina coladas and walks in the rain, girl?
Not walks in the rainbow. Give me the pina colada for sure with a walk on the beach, and I am set. Um, those are 2 things that bring me joy off bat are sunsets and sunflowers. I love nature. I love being in nature. Um, what also brings me joy is being around people I love and just being able to laugh and joke around. There's something so therapeutic about having a good laugh with friends that just, like, warms my spirit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I say to people all the time, especially some of my little mentees, like having having a romantic partner is lovely. But essentially having a community of people in general who you can just be yourself around, who can uh, um sort of wrap you in love and laughter is a beautiful and important thing.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that, Miss Nola girl. Yes, we both are proud New Orleanians. No, no shame and no silence in our pride for it.
No, none at all.
Right. So I asked you here today because one of the things that we have talked about is your journey from a young adult into the beginnings of grown lady.
Yeah.
You've said that your mid to late 20s was the most difficult period of your life, that it was a struggle for you. If you don't mind sort of detailing what made that period of your life so difficult, why was it hard for you?
So I feel okay, so it kinda started around 24, which I feel like is a pivotal moment for a lot of people, like, you're finishing college, you're really starting to get your feet wet into, like, careers and jobs and not being around the friends that you're used to being around. It's just like a pivotal moment in people's lives, especially approaching 25 and, this, like, mid-quarter life crisis and everything. So it's already, like, naturally a big transitional period, and then I moved to Houston when I was 24. Aside from living in New York, this was, like, my real, like, big move, big girl move. So that was already, like, exciting in itself, but scary at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I moved to Houston for the person I was dating, and, uh from, like, 25 to 29, it was me just trying to figure myself out, figure life out. I was going through so many transitions, many things that made me uncomfortable, and I wasn't used to being that uncomfortable, and so that uncomfortability was a lot, and it put your girl through Hindsight, it has made me so much better. I'm so good with being uncomfortable now, but going through that, especially in your 20s when you're trying to, like, figure yourself out and figure the world out at the same time, it was a lot.
Wow. So if you don't mind being a bit more specific, so you said you were just going through a lot, that you were trying to figure out life and you were having a hard time. Was it the world, this new world of work? Was it this new city? Because although Houston is larger than New Orleans, you said you came to Houston from New York, right?
So I when I lived in New York, I moved back to New Orleans first and was there for maybe like 2 years, and then I moved to Houston. So so I was back in a comfortable, like, setting, essentially, and, like, I was only in New York for a little time, so it wasn't, like, years how I've been in Houston.
Mhm.
So, in that sense, like, things were kinda different, you know? Um, I was trying to get used to the new person I was dating. I was trying to transition from teaching into fitness training, so trying to find a job and trying to figure out a city where like, I had visited Houston so many times before moving, but I never fully, like, explored the city.
Mm.
And so I didn't really have friends out here like that. And so it was a lot. Like I was navigating a lot, a relationship, work, and a new city. So it was just like coming at me from all angles,
So like all points of adulthood just
just
slapping.
collided at once. Yes, which I
And
brought for myself, but I had no idea what I was signing up for.
you know, like new babe, new city,
Knew
like
everything.
job transition. Let me just do it all. Let me do
Yeah,
it all and see how
all
this
that
goes.
crazy.
And as you were dealing with that, what was your way of coping, or what was going on in your body that made you sort of, because you said you went this was like a 4 or 5 year period, right? From 24 to 29. Um, what ways did you handle that stress and manage it for you to know this is a whole lot? Because that's a long period of time to just be juggling all of these new things.
It is, and I will say, like, I call them the dark ages, really from 25 to 29 were, like, the dark ages, because I was not handling it. Like, if I'm being completely honest, I was experiencing the worst depression I had ever experienced. I was very anxious. I felt like I had no direction. I honestly felt like I was operating externally. Like I was just responding and reacting to everything in the world that came at me. And I feel like I had no idea what was really going on inside. Like I felt so lost and confused. So I did not navigate it well at all. I wish I did. I wish I knew what I know now. I wish I had all the tools back then, but I didn't. I didn't get into therapy until I was maybe 28, and that was my first time seeing a therapist and, like, trying to start figuring things out, which I did. I figured out a good bit of stuff. Oh, no, maybe I was 29.
Oh,
I think I was 29 by the time I started. So, I mean, kinda a little, a little late in the game, but but on time for me. It was very on time for me, but I didn't navigate it well. It was a lot of crying, it was a lot of confusion. Um, I was just going through the motions. I literally was grasping at anything that I could to, like, figure things out.
mm.
It was rough. It was really rough. I'm not even gonna hold you. It was rough.
Oh, wow, wow. And it's interesting you said that you when you look back on it, you were basically reacting to everything and operating externally. So looking for stuff outside of yourself. Um, which
Looking for
may
stuff to give me joy, looking for ways to be happy, looking for ways to be satisfied, but I was looking for all of this in other people and other things.
oh,
Like,
tell me
thinking
more about that, please.
yeah, so, like, the person I was dating, she and I were no longer, like, trying to make a relationship work. It was one of those, like, you know, you finish with the relationship, but you're not really finished with the relationship.
It
Like,
take a while for the breakup to stick.
it's really
Sometimes it stick the first time, sometimes it stick after the seventh breakup.
exactly, exactly. So it was one of those, like, back and forth emotionally type of things. And then trying to, like, figure out stuff with my job and, like, okay, I don't really like this and I wanna try something else. There were a few jobs I just literally went in that morning, was there half of the day, and I was like, "I can't do this," and I left.
You're like, "Oh, no, this is not in God's plan for me."
My mom jokes about it now, she's like, "Oh, she won't give you 2 weeks notice." She will leave the day of, and it was
Even to this day?
not so much now, like, not so much now, but then, yeah, it was just like, "I'm not feeling this, I'm out."
You're walking like, "Mm-mm, bye."
This ain't it. This ain't it. So it was me trying to, like, find friends, find a job that I like, find a way to be happy with the dating situation I was in, and things just and things just weren't working out, and I I will say, like, very transparently, like, I didn't have self-love, and I didn't care for myself in the ways I needed to be cared for, and that was a big realization for me, and that made all the difference.
Did that realization come through therapy?
Um, Part of it did, but part of it didn't. A lot of like, in therapy, I was working through a lot of, like, emotional stuff and stuff with my job, and so, it wasn't until later that year of 2019 where I was like, "Okay, stuff gotta change, like, something has got to give," and that's when I started on, like, a healing journey and, like, figuring out what self-love is, what that looks like for me, and, like, all of those intricacies of what it entails. So, I mean, it sounds so cliche, people talk about self-love all the time and everything, but, like, it's so important because if you don't have that, then you do exactly what I did and look for external validation.
So
And
looking for validation through the bay, the job, maybe a new city? Was it all of those things or just the person
it was
that you
all of those
think
things because I originally left New Orleans because I felt like I was outgrowing the city. Like, I love New Orleans, like, this, like, love the culture. You can't find that anywhere else. Love the people. Like, it just warms my heart when I go back home, you know? But New Orleans is not as progressive, if we're being completely honest. So, you know, I just felt like I was outgrowing the city and I needed to spread my wings a little more. And so, like, in that regard, I was ready to move, but I wasn't ready for the magnitude of the move. Like, and then trying to get to know a new city, it was like, yeah, like, I'm looking for where's my community or where's my new friend? Like, not having friends out here compared to like being in New Orleans where I could just call up a few friends and we hang out, we go to the bar, we go
now
do
and
whatever.
also friends you have would have known literally all your life. So, like, people who truly know you and know
Yes,
your people. That's a
exactly.
very specific community that once you leave home, it really takes a lifetime, like the rest of your adult life to create. Like, people who have known me since elementary school, people who hold like this my whole entire community, know my mom, I know my auntie. That's hard to
Yes,
yeah.
and especially, like, as an adult, I didn't realize, like, they don't tell you it's hard to make friends as an adult, you have to learn that the hard way, and I was not prepared. Like, why is it so hard to be friends? Where are the friends? Where where are
I
I
thought
don't
I was a cool person. I thought I made friends easily, but apparently no. This you got to do all kinds of stuff. You just
a
like
lot.
like sliding around.
Now it's hard to, like, really try to find people who I felt like I vibed with, who I trusted, who it wasn't just like a high and by type of situation. Because I was used to having, like, elementary friends, high school friends, college friends, sorority friends, like, I was used to having groups of people that I could, like, go to, and mind you, like, my close circle isn't that big, but I knew people, and out here, I didn't. Like, I literally could count the number of people I knew on one hand. And I didn't even make it to 5. Like, so
So
it was just like 1, 2, 3. Yep, that's it. That's all the people I know.
so it's you and the partner,
Uh-huh.
and
And
things are were they rocky immediately, or did it sort of progress to that?
it progressed. Like, it was progressive. Um, and I mean, it was just rough. It
So
was just
you and the partner that eventually got Rocky, no friends, trying to figure out this landscape of Houston, which is a southern city, but is not New Orleans because there is no city like New Orleans. Okay. This job that it took you 17 minutes to figure out.
literally, literally, while I'm at the computer and I'm like, "This ain't it."
Mm, mm-mm.
No, it was not it.
And 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 I feel like that is the story of so many young folk in their 20s. I think that first real move from home, especially if it's literally to another state or another city, and especially how you were very honest about just looking for so much external things to make you feel happy or to make you feel like you have arrived and not getting that for a long time, like just repeating that cycle over and over again. So now I'll get a new job then, and I'll wait there for 30 minutes and see if I like it. Okay. So this
That
didn't work out with this person after the seventh breakup. I'm finally going to call it a wrap and I'm immediately going to go out and look for somebody else. Okay. Maybe it's the neighborhood I'm living in Houston. I'll move to like just all of this searching and not figuring out there's some internalness. I need to go
that
in.
me, that no matter where I go, what I do, who I'm around, it's me that is not making this work.
Mm. So
I just
let's go there for you, soul. So you said about 29, you went to therapy, which I'm assuming is your sort of the entry into how old are you now?
I'm 34.
The entry into 34-year-old soul who hopefully is less of a mess, let's just say.
Yeah, she is.
Fingers crossed, right?
She is definitely less of a mess.
Was there an inciting incident that let you say that sort of had you say, there's something going on here, and I'm repeating this process. I need something. I need to act to be intentional about figuring out what's happening so I can transform my life. Was there an inciting incident? And if so, how did you go from that to now 34-year-old soul who is good?
Yes. Okay, so, um, I was dating someone and
Same
we
person or a different person?
person, um, called it quits. She called it off, and it devastated me. And, uh, I had also quit my job because I was very unhappy with it. It was literally the last job of teaching that I ever did. Um, and I was not happy with it. And after I felt like my life was doing a decline because I quit the job first and then that was in like April. And later that summer, she called it quits with me. So I just like was a mess. I felt like everything is going wrong. Like this is not how it's supposed to go. And because I sat and thought like, it is me. These things, my dating life sucks and it's not working out because of me. These jobs are not working out partly because some of these jobs are just terrible, but also because I'm not happy with what I'm doing and I'm not passionate about this. And I'm a big passionate person, especially when it comes to like work. I have to be passionate about what I'm doing. My heart has to be in it. Otherwise, I'm out. So those two things kind of were the um, catalyst for me to take a step back. And my therapist had also said something about like, when have you ever just been by yourself? Like not dated anyone, not been in a relationship, not trying to be in a relationship. When have you ever just dated someone? And that kind of like stuck with me because I was like, I don't know. Like it wasn't like I jumped from relationship to relationship, but I did like, most people do stop dating somebody else, maybe take well, some people maybe take some time and then go, I'm not like I need some time and then go. Some people jump right into the next one. But I'm not I wasn't that person. Uh so it was just like, okay, like maybe I do need to take a step back and really figure out like what is going on with me that is not making these things work. Because if I don't, I'm gonna keep repeating the same cycle. So from there, I didn't date anybody. I didn't have any booze. I didn't have any potentials. I didn't have any little flirtationships. I like the only people I talked to were my friends and my family, and that was it. And it gave me a lot of time to think, a lot of time to have a lot of introspect, and a lot of time to heal the stuff that I didn't know needed to be healed, or
Mm.
that I knew I needed to heal from, but just never took the time to. And it also gave me a lot of clarity on, like, my job and, like, what do I really wanna do? And that's when I decided to go back to grad school to get my master's.
Mm.
So it
Beautiful.
yeah,
So
it
this
was like
sounds like a series of years then, not just a few months.
no, this was over, like, 2 years, because but I didn't go to grad school until 31? Yeah, 31. And for all of 2020, I was, like, deep diving into myself and, like, figuring out,
The
like
COVID year.
yeah, I was taking class like prereqs to get into grad school and everything, like, I was focused on me and only me, and I needed that. I didn't know how badly I needed that, but there was so much stuff that was just not going right, and I was like, we gotta stop this right here, like, the buck ends here. What is going on with you?" And I really had to have those tough conversations with myself, and, like, when I tell people or, like, when I talk to people about, like, healing and, like, their, like, personal journeys and stuff, I'm like, "You have to be so honest with yourself." Like, if you are honest with nobody else, in those moments, you have to be the most honest with yourself. Because if you can't peel back the layers and say, like, "Really, you want some bullshit?" Like, if you can't say that to yourself, if you can't say, like, "You were the problem," um,
Oh, you really wonder like I'm back on my bullshit, but not in a good way.
and
Like
not
the
in a
good
good
bull.
way. Right, I wanna be on the good bullshit, like, not the bad bullshit. But I had to be so truthful with myself about it because if I kept lying to myself and kept blaming everybody else or didn't take accountability for the ways that I, like, participated in my own hurt and my own harm, then I was never gonna get anywhere. I was still gonna repeat the same cycle.
Mm.
So,
And
we had to get rid of the bad bullshit.
yeah, back on your good bullshit.
On good bullshit, you know?
Stay off the bad bullshit, right?
Right.
I- Listen, that being honest with yourself, we could go on for like a good 2 hours about how difficult that is and why so many people refuse to do it. But especially, again, I wanted to have you here, and why I'm even doing this series is because I do think a lot of young people um, need to hear that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because you said, aside from just being honest with yourself, you said that moment of alone and basically silencing the voices around you by literally saying, I will not try to hide this in romantic love. I will not try to get another teaching job. I'm going to sit here and listen to my life. And my life is like, you want some bullshit, not the good kind, right? But you also said that you had to truly excavate the hurt that you were trying to not to deal with, right? And we all have some version or versions, like layers and layers of ish
Yep.
that it's too painful or too tiring to have to unpack and deal with. And I think a lot of people, older people too, I think especially when you're young and just out there in the world and confronted with all this stuff,
Mm.
they kind of sense that. I feel like I think you sense it in your gut, but much like they don't tell you, you got to really work hard to make friends and be intentional when you adult. They also don't tell you that that fight you had with your sister when you were 12, that been playing in the back of your head all this time. That's why X, Y, and Z is difficult for you. That's why, and if you don't go ahead on and deal with that fight and those things you said to your sister when you were 12,
They
I
gonna
mean,
manifest
you
other ways. Yep. That's how it's true. That's so true.
exactly, exactly. So now that you have worked all of that and you are having a perfectly lovely, happy life with not necessarily no obstacles, but you are aware of how to sort of guide yourself in the direction that you need because you now have the tools to handle the stuff of life.
Yeah.
Let's say that there is a 24-year-old,
Great old age.
a 24-year-old Saul,
Mhm.
woman Saul, who is in this, I call it the hamster wheel, this never ending hamster wheel of emotional violence and avoidance going around and around and around. Before you tell her what she needs to know about getting out that hamster wheel, what do you think she can appreciate about that hamster wheel? Because I do think all of that nastiness and that bullshit is not a waste, right? I do think that there are things you can take from that. And I have met younger women especially who know that they're in this bullshit, right? And they're frustrated and they're like, "Give me the cheat sheet. Get me to 34
Yeah.
in together as quickly as possible." And I think they kind of want to jump steps and don't and can't appreciate what they're getting from the situation. So what that you get from that? Like now that you look back, that someone who's having a hard time getting to the wellness can at least stop and appreciate and just be in for a minute.
Hmm. Uncomfortability stands out the most to me right now. It's just jumping out in my mind. Um, I think a lot of people are not comfortable with being uncomfortable. And those periods of confusion and those periods of struggle and just trying to figure things out can be so uncomfortable. And I would say, like, just sit in that. Like, just find a way to navigate that by the small things. What are the small things that you have control over? A lot of our control is just over ourselves, honestly. Like, there's not many external things that we can control fully. But ourselves are is one of those things that we can. So I would tell them, like, enjoy the journey of being uncomfortable because you get so much more. There's so many more lessons you learn from when you're uncomfortable than when you're just in your comfort zone. And that's what I took away from a lot of that. I could appreciate the loss that I had. Like, I was lost, I didn't know where to go, I didn't know what path to go down, but the beauty of that was that it opened up so many paths. I really could go anywhere. I just had to consciously make a choice of which path was I going to continue down, and take the lessons of being uncomfortable and knowing what that feels like, and using that knowledge, using that feeling of like, "Yeah, this is uncomfortable, but I'm not gonna be afraid of it. I'm gonna use it as a tool to propel myself forward to the next thing."
Hmm, beautiful. I love that. I'm not gonna be afraid of it. Like, it's a part of life. It
Yeah.
won't kill you, just sit in it. And that is another hard lesson that takes practice as well. And tell the 24-year-old who heard all you just said, but still is like, "Word, but how do I get" what she has to look forward to after she has set in the discomfort, has had her years of silence of not trying to hide all the pain in a job, in a bank, and in a new car, in a new neighborhood, a new apartment. What does she have once she sits in discomfort, gets herself together, stops being on the bad bullshit, and gets to the other side? What is waiting for her?
A life of peace. Peace and understanding. Um, Peace within ourselves, I feel like is such a big concept, and there's a quote that always, like, sticks out to me, and it's really in reference to, like, other people, like, if you I c I'm not gonna quote it verbatim, but it essentially says, like, if you try to keep the peace by not saying anything, you c create a war inside yourself, And I lead with that in my life now because I was the person who didn't say much because I didn't wanna rock the boat, or I knew, like, if I brought something up, especially at a certain time, it was gonna cause conflict, and it did create a war inside of me. It created a lot of turmoil, and so being able to sit in my uncomfortability, identify my issues, where I went wrong, leads you to a lot of peace. You can come to peace with the ways you were, the things you had to endure to get here, and you have a better understanding of yourself. And once you have a better understanding of yourself, no one can like tell you who you are. No one can dictate anything for you without your approval. You end up being the one who has all the agency to stay in a situation, walk away from a situation, know when something is good for you, know when something isn't, and know how you want to react to that situation. So yeah.
Yeah, and the doors of the church are open. Listen, that was a mic drop. You laid it down, and I appreciate you being so honest and so candid. I just think if there is somebody out here who didn't do the 20s in a confused, hot bullshit state, I don't y'all must be not human. I don't know any other way
Right.
to do it. 20.
They have to be the avatar of somebody. I don't know. Because 20s are those are the discovery years. They're meant to be. They're just set up that way, and there's no way around that.
Yeah,
And I think if we are more honest with 20 somethings and say like these are your discovery years, these are the years where you're gonna mess up and you're gonna mess up royally. And if you don't have too many mess ups, great. That is perfect for you. I love that for you. But
as
for
long
most
as nobody dies, nobody dies.
but for most of us, 20s are a hot mess. It's like it's okay to be a hot mess. That is okay because we're all discovering ourselves, especially in our 20s. We're no longer teens. We're no like entering into a whole new transition of life and getting to know that. So things are gonna be messy. It's inevitable. But you have to have, like, a goal for yourself. Like, you have to say, like, "Okay, Imma use this time to explore myself and to figure out who I am and what the world has to offer, what I have to offer the world." And then you have to say, "Okay, but by this, like, time frame," or not even give yourself a time if you aren't that type of person who responds to time like that. But have an understanding of, like, "Okay, who am I now, and who do I want to be? And then how are you gonna get there?"
Mm.
For some people that happens in like a year or 2. Some people it happens in 5 years. 30 was like my, "Okay, 30, we can be doing the same stuff." This this is a new decade, it felt like a rebirth, like, it felt like a new beginning, and for me, that was the catalyst, like, okay, like, 20s, yeah, I can mess around, and I did a lot of crazy stuff, I did a lot of fun stuff, like, it was a roller coaster. Great, but I'm not bringing that same energy into 30, and that was the goal line for me, and, like, for somebody else, that may be different. I have friends who are, like, 28 right now discovering stuff that I didn't discover until 30 about myself. And I'm like, "Great, you are ahead of the curve, but you can't stop it here." Like, you can't say, like, "Oh, that was enough, and Imma retreat back to doing the same BS." And then, like, it's just not gonna work out that way. Like, it's just not gonna be it's not gonna be beneficial. So you have to have an idea of, like, where you want to go with your life. Internal validation. That's, like, been my biggest thing, internal validation. Are you happy and okay with the way things are going? And if they're not, then what are you gonna do to change it?
Again, another mic drop. Listen, I want to thank you so much. I knew you would have just pearl after pearl after pearl to offer.
Well, why at 34?
That 34-year-old, I'm together wisdom. We
Yes, she went through a lot of a lot of it to get to this point. So,
like I've earned my peace. Thank you much.
yes. Yes, I have.
Tell us a little bit about because again, one another thing that I really appreciate about Soul and that we have a lot in common is she, like you said, she's a reader, but she's also a book talker. So tell us about your platform, where we can find you. Um, just tell us about your brand and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram or what we call Bookstagram, and it's at the Soul Reader, and that's SOL. Um, it is a growing platform. I post a lot of like the books that I'm reading, which tend to be contemporary fiction, poetry, um, what else? A lot of different books in different genres. Yes.
Very prolific and diverse reader. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. So that's like my little corner of the internet. So you can always find me there. So yeah,
I think I called you a book talker. You're a bookstagrammer. I don't know why TikTok is in my name. Yeah. Do you even are you on TikTok?
I am not on TikTok.
I've been avoiding it intentionally. It just feels overwhelming. Like if people
Uh,
send TikTok video, I'll go and watch it. And you know how it says, "Do you want to go into the app?" I'm like, no, I don't want to go in.
oh,
I want
yeah,
to watch it right here
but all
in this
TikToks
thread.
on Instagram. I can't do another like social media app. It's too much.
It's too much. It's been too much for like 10 years. So now it's like too much times 20. It's just too much.
Yeah. I'll leave that to the young kids.
Exactly. Thank you again so much. It's been wonderful having you. And appreciate all of your honesty and wisdom. Thank you.
You.